Okay, so hello everybody. My name's Anthony. I'm from a company called Flux, Flux Data Inc. officially, headquartered out in San Francisco. We're a company that span out of Google X as one of the moonshot projects, and we're now an independent funded company up out in Silicon Valley. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about a specific app that we have on our platform that is related to a GIS kind of topic. So I'm sorry to say there's no 4D in this presentation. Is anybody disappointed about that? No? Yeah, one person on the back? Okay. I'll come back next year with something 4D. So, but I think the important thing is it is data related, and so I think you'll find something interesting from what I have to say. So what is Flux? Flux is a data platform. It's a collaboration platform. It's a platform. What does that even mean? We've realized that going around and just saying these kinds of things doesn't really mean a lot to people. And so we really talk about, actually, what does Flux mean in terms of an app? Or how does somebody sitting at their desk, 9 to 5, use our product? And so I'm going to really put that in context for you all tonight. The mantra at Flux is all about how can we take all of this wealth of data that we know that we have in this industry and structure it in a way that we can consume it rapidly and start to predict what's going to happen next. And so when I say predict, I don't necessarily mean use AI and tell us something that we didn't know was going to happen. It was just, we have all this data on our hard drives in our office. If we could only consume it as quickly as we can search Google, then we might actually be able to operate better as engineers, as architects, as urban planners. And so I'm going to show you today about how one of our apps is allowing our customers to rapidly access very large amounts of data and make smarter decisions faster than their competitors. So as I said, the name of this app is Site Extractor. Very pleased to say I'm going to embarrass my colleague here, a guy called Javier just down here. This was his brainchild. Actually said, hey, can I take a couple of days to kind of hack this idea that I had? And we're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And it turns into our one of our most used applications on the platform. So what is Site Extractor? Just so I'll tell you what you're going to hear about. It's a web app, runs in your web browser, no downloads, no installations. You select an area of land that you're interested in, pick a few data points, and Flux fetches all of that information, processes it, and delivers it into your favorite CAD or BIM package. So just quick show of hands, who uses, and keep your hands up, SketchUp. Anybody knows how to use SketchUp? Revit, AutoCAD, Rhino, Excel. Okay, great. So there's going to be a lot of people that can go home and use this before they go to bed. So I'll talk about this in the context of Flux, the platform, just so you can see how it can be extended. The 3 tenets of the Flux platform. 1, powerful linking of all construction data. And so let's stop thinking about files, because files are not interoperable by default. Okay? You actually have to start breaking this down into the data. The text string in a parameter on a 3D object in Revit is just letters at the end of the day. Okay? And a point in space, X, Y, Z, you break it all down just to numbers. There's really not that many data types, and interoperability shouldn't be that hard. You look at the banking industry, somehow all of these secure banks have figured out a way that we can use our ATM cards and go to any cash machine in the world and withdraw your currency in that local currency. Okay, so if the banking industry can do data interoperability, then surely the construction industry can too. So that's point 1. However, that's not very glamorous. Not, the geeks like it. I'm sure the people in the room here, we kind of geek out about that kind of stuff. But there's a whole bunch of other people in our industry that just want to get on with the job. And so what we have to do is take that data and present it to them in a way that's as easy to consume as using Uber to kind of get a taxi home at the end of the day, or hopping onto Netflix and just putting on a movie. They're streaming data, they're accessing data, they're doing all this kind of stuff that we're talking about, but they don't even realize they're doing it. It's just easier than the way they used to do it. And so that's why we have apps. And then the third one is that if you try and build a closed ecosystem in today's world, then it's already game over. And so Flux is an open platform. We've got that Google DNA that we started out with. We're going to build an open system, and we're not afraid of competition. We will survive only if we are better than our rivals' products. And so we're going to do this from the outset. And I'll talk about how a company, Bureau Happold, have already taken advantage of this feature. So powerful linking of all construction data. So tonight is a GIS-themed event. And so in this particular app, I'm going to talk about Flux has accessed all of these free data sets. In fact, actually, Mapbox is not free. We've signed a license agreement with them, and all of our users can now access Mapbox data. But certainly NASA and OpenStreetMap have a wealth of data available to us readily, if you know how to use an API. Okay, in fact, NASA weren't even that kind to us. They just had an entire scan of the entire Earth in 3D in, I think, TIFF format. It's like basically an image or something like that. And so anyway, our software engineers went and downloaded all that data set, rehosted it on our servers, and put an API up in front of that. And so as far as our users are concerned, they can access any of this data just for what they require. That data is all good and well, and you can look at that in a web browser. That's not particularly hard these days, but at the end of the day, you've got a drawing to deliver. Okay, you've got a 3D model to create. And so if you can't get this data directly into your favorite application, then it's just stuck up there and you're going to be looking at it. And so Flux has spent a long time working with all of these different software applications and integrating into their API interface, which means that we don't need to generate files which are then imported and exported, which we all know can be a very painful process. We actually can directly receive this data into the environment as simple as pasting it off your clipboard. And I'll show again an example of that. Really important to point out here that this is not just BIM programs, not just 3D CAD programs, but also things like Excel or Google Sheets, because again, those strings and those numbers are just text and numbers. But even being able to link into instant messaging services like Slack. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get notifications on WhatsApp and really anything when we break it down to the data level. Okay, so we need apps to put this all in context for the end users. And so if you go to our apps page, you'll see it kind of looks like this. We're going to open up this one here called Site Extractor. So a very pleasant, very easy to use experience for our customers. They're brought directly to this interface, and you can see that they can search anywhere globally. They simply kind of draw this rectangular box around the area. Perhaps this is where they're thinking about purchasing a piece of land. This is where they're perhaps setting up their construction site, something like that. And then on the right-hand side, like a shopping list of data, just I would like the 3D topography, give me the contour lines, give me the roads, parks, and water features, whatever that might be. And they hit Send to Flux. They can then hop over into any of their Flux-enabled desktop programs, in this instance, SketchUp, if you hadn't told already, and just choose that project, choose the data set you'd like, and Flux is going to deliver that directly into that environment. So no files. If you've got this SketchUp running in feet and inches or meters or centimeters or whatever it might be, Flux is handling all of that for you. The user just wants to crack on and do their design competition and go home on time. So the exact same process, no matter which one of these applications that you're using. And we're obviously expanding support all the time, obviously targeting those with the greatest market share to start with. And so I hear a lot, things like Bentley, things like Tekla. And so again, we're expanding this out all of the time, but very pleased that we've got pretty good coverage already. There's an online viewer as well, if you want to use that app. It's called Data Explorer. And so perhaps you want to just share it, talk about it with a colleague, look at an iPad, whatever that might be. But I think the thing that really gets interesting when you start digging into the Flux platform, and now we're talking about the users that are maybe one step up. Okay, some people are happy, just get the 3D data into my design package, and I'm happy with that. Some people want to go one step further. And for them, they can actually dig down into the data that Flux has captured on their behalf. So we use a format, it's called Json, it's kind of like XML. You know what, it doesn't matter. It's a human-readable data format. It means that you can open up in Notepad, and it kind of makes sense to you. So what looks to the basic users like polylines on the left-hand side, when you actually dig into the data, has things like the postcode, the street, the number of the building on the street, has in fact the height of the building, and even now today, especially when we talk about BIM level 2, BIM level 3, where did that data originally come from? And you can see here that we're putting in the copyright where that data originally came from. Very important these days. So again, using Flux, using some of our online tools, you can start to extract those data points and use them in your other design tools. And so I'm sure there must be a handful of people here that use things like Dynamo or Grasshopper. And so now you can bring in lists of data or in fact, you can even be sending those lists of data to Microsoft Excel. So again, here I'm using this to kind of pull out the street names, and I'm going to use those to tag my 3D polylines in my model, and maybe put that in an AutoCAD sheet or something like that. Flux doesn't anticipate what the user is going to use this data for. We just do the software company thing and make the data accessible and simple to use. So, like I said, we don't know what our users want to do with this data. We're just going to deliver it up to them in the most easy to consume manner. And so working with a company, Bura Happold, which I'm sure many people are familiar with here in London and Bath, they had a great idea of a way to extend our site extractor application. They had a plugin for Grasshopper and Dynamo, which does spatial analysis. It can calculate the shortest distance between 2 points based on obstructions, such as buildings. And so what they did is we gave them a copy of our code. We build the platform. We don't really care too much for the applications built on top of that platform. If you want to take that and fork it and build on top of it, you're more than welcome. We're very happy when people want to do that. And so Bura Happold have now launched this app where, again, you click launch in our app store, go straight to this page, select an area of interest. This is our office out in San Francisco. You can pick points of interest. And so some people are picking bus stops or transport nodes. Some people are even placing things like fire assembly points, and click analyze. And entirely in the web browser there, Bura Happold's algorithm, running on their own server, not ours, is feeding back with all of that, this kind of like color-coded, shortest distance heat map. And as we all know, I want to go and use that now in a design report. I want to push it into Rhino so I can do the next stage of my analysis. Because it's connected to the Flux platform, you can go off and take that data to any of the other endpoints. And so I think something I was very pleased to hear this with the Bura Happold app, is that this went live on our public apps page about 3 weeks ago. And I spoke to the guys yesterday, and they said that they've already had 2 inquiries now from architects who are looking to engage them in spatial analysis consulting services. And so I think just like the software industry, which is all about the open source movement, it's about giving a little back so that we can all benefit. Bura Happold has decided to give this away for free. They pay the calculation costs, the server costs, all these sorts of things, but it's now already starting to pay dividends for them. So if 99 users out of 100 use it for free, and one of them comes back for a consulting engagement, they're going to be making good business. And as an industry, together, we're all moving forwards. So there's companies all over the world using Flux. Obviously started out a lot of architecture, moved into more engineering companies. And right now we're very focused on working with general contractors. They've got very, very different types of data sets. And so how can we be hosting these? How can we be providing them up, serving them in APIs that can be consumed en masse? One of those companies that have been using the Site Extractor app in particular, Lendlease out in Singapore, Lendlease obviously end-to-end developer, constructor, and operator. And they actually had a choice. They needed to make a very quick decision between 4 different plots of land that they had the opportunity to purchase. And so they're up against a whole swathe of other people who want to buy that land. And so typically they get perhaps the lowest paid person in the office to go and boot up Google Earth and kind of angle it a little bit and see which ones are flat, which ones have got a big incline. What is the development potential of this land? So they were able to use Flux, sample those 4 different plots of land, load that into SketchUp, and they could do all of their analytics in that platform. So again, people using these tools in many different ways to speed up their decision-making process. And so I know that many people will be at Digital Construction Week in the coming days. And so just to highlight, we're going to be talking about a couple of things we've been doing this year with our partners. One, Google Cloud Platform here in London and Balfour Beatty. We did a hackathon and application development project. Another application that we developed with PricewaterhouseCoopers, also here in London, to do with crane placement analytics. So bringing in BIM data, where is that structural object? How much does it weigh? Bringing in from Excel, how many cranes do I have? What is the lifting capacity of my cranes? And then also bringing in things from Oracle P6 schedules. And in a simple web app, place my cranes and get instant KPI updates. So that's a really cool one. And then obviously, you can hear from the horse's mouth, Bura Happold will be talking about their experience developing on the Flux platform. So thanks very much for your attention. I hope to see a few of you at Digital Construction Week, but I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Wow. It's so great to see the barriers between all the softwares being broken down by, again, innovative digital companies. We all know Google's reputation, but I think with what we've seen today is there is a almost like a groundswell now of a movement to break down things. I'm a big believer of the Open Data Institute that you mentioned, making, basically just having fun with data. I never thought I'd be saying that near my 40th birthday, but yes, sir.
Just a very, very simple question. You mentioned that virtually all your services are running in the cloud. Is that cloud UK based?
So at the moment, it's based in the United States, but fortunately, Google Cloud London have just opened their data center, and so we'll be looking at setting up, obviously, other services.
The reason why I'm asking, how would you deal with the MODL or MOJ projects?
Yeah, I mean, there's easy places to start, right? And so obviously, working with the Ministry of Defense is not one of them. Even in the United States, it's the same kind of story. There's plenty of this industry is a blue ocean, and so we will cross those bridges when we come to it. But I think already there's plenty of opportunities. Very important point though that you're making.
Incredibly important. But if you're in receipt of a decent employee's information requirements, it should tell you who to go and consult with on behalf of your client. What is their policy? You'll find that most government organizations publish their policy. You've probably got to be EU hosted, something like that. So you should be responding in kind through your quality plan, your BIM execution plan, what you're going to use, where's it hosted, and how you're protecting your client when you use their data. If they choose to allow you to do that, then some network rail want you to be hosting all your data on their wares. So it's their problem, but we don't know. Up next, we've got Nathan, who's just about to plug in. Have we got any more questions for Anthony before he gets comfortable down the front there? Oh, make me go all the way around.
Hi. How global is the site extractor data?
So for the 3D topography, it's a global coverage. In the United States, it's 1/3 of an arcsecond, and for the remainder of the world, it's 1 arcsecond. In terms of OpenStreetMaps, that was relatively limited, we found, and that's why we licensed data from Mapbox. And so you'll find now in China, you're getting pretty good data sets. But again, it varies around the world.
Having tried to use it about 12 months ago, one of the only problems I found was my site was bigger than I could extract. But I think the extents have gone out recently. 2K was.
So we actually limited it just for user performance.
Yes.
So it was like this big, then choke up their desktop or something. But I think for infrastructure, we could maybe build a different version. So.
Absolutely, yes, please. Have got one question of my own, again on the security, topic. Quality, data quality, and understanding that, yes, we've said who it's from and where it's from, the copyright, et cetera, but understanding the more granular data quality, how are we going to address that? Or should we make it incumbent on every author of the information that they've got to put their stamp in it? How good it is how good they have been at making that information. Is that a foot wide, or is it a foot and a half, et cetera, when we get their digital equivalent? Any thoughts?
I think this is the advantage of tools like 3D Repo, like Flux. You're logged in as yourself, and so you never have to stamp it as yourself because we already know where it came from. And so expecting people to kind of set up their file names in a certain order, it's kind of dumb. It's like Uber expecting you to tell you exactly where you are. You should be able to discern this information just from what I'm giving you. And so,
giving you, yes, in receipt, but I'm talking from OS. So how much trust is this audience through using your platform? How much trust is implied on OS that they've done their job correctly? The placements of the roads, etc. Good enough? Are they accurate? Are they spatially accurate? Is there any way in which we can do that?
I mean, the best we can do is tell you where the data came from.
Yep.
And so I think it's rubbish in, rubbish out.
Absolutely. Has anyone got any thoughts on data quality and oh, damn it, I'm on the wrong side of the room already.
Hello. Yeah, so it's kind of the exciting element of Flux is the ability to connect to all the different sources and whatever. But is there guidance that you have to follow for it to be kind of visible and useful? I'm thinking like Excel, for example, you can format information in any way possible. And I can think of lots of spreadsheets that would be very difficult to extract useful information from if you weren't looking at them in the right way. And obviously, when you're passing information, typically you need it to be quite well structured in columns and whatever. So, and it's true of also like IFC files or other file formats. So is that something, when making the information within the different programs that you connect to Flux, do you have to have in mind that you want to pass this information and design and model in a certain way so that it's able to be visible on your platform?
Yeah, I think people have to be conscious about what it is that they're trying to achieve. Typically, how Flux is adopted, there would be a BIM manager or some sort of information manager who would say, this is the way that we're going to use it in our business. Everyone uses it slightly different. But I think users do have to think about, what do I want to use this data for? It's not doing their job for them. And so, we all need to bring some intelligence to the table as well in terms of how we use these tools. In Monty Python, they try to cut down the tallest tree in the forest with a herring, right? It's like, well, herrings is a tool, right? Flux is just a tool. You can try and do stupid things with it, and you're not going to get very far. We'll make it as simple as possible with these web apps, but I think that there's multiple levels of sophistication of our users, and that's fine. Some people want to take it a little step further than others, and so we'll do the best we can to make it simple, but we don't want to make it a dumb tool that undermines your abilities as a designer to do your job as best as you can do it.
I think that's just an easy one to say, is that setting expectations. I suppose is the hardest part to do, is that people think, oh yeah, I'll be able to zoom in and be able to pick out a door. It's like, well, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
We know from if we did OS map data, if you picked 1 to 1250, the coordinates are correct, but the lines are plus or minus 400 mil. You understand that. Most people never did. And I've lost the count number of times people go, well, that's in the wrong place. Well, what did you use to start off with? A 1 to 1250 map of Manchester.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had that example where basically they got on site and then went, the fence line should be here, over there somewhere, basically because nobody went out and got a more granular survey. It was based on a 1 in 50,000. And the differences between a 1 in 50,000 map and a 1-to-1 is very, very different. Very different.
Yeah, it's
my first chuckle of the evening.
It's a very unique industry, and so yeah, we just got to be very humble that this is not the aerospace industry where we're precise to fractions of millimeters. It's nobody knows where the site red line is. Okay, it's an unknown. People say the central source of truth. Nobody knows what the truth is. So what do we put in the BIM model?
The land registry should know.
Somebody should know. We'll know after it gets built.
Yes.
So we'll put it in the as-built. So. Anyway,
I've got one more point before you go on. It's interesting you put the point there about the use of Excel. How many people you learn to use Excel in school? Maybe I'm a bit old, but was Excel taught? Your youngsters. There we go, 2 out of a room, So I was taught Lotus too, showing our age. But exactly, I mean, the tools that I've had to learn have come with my career. Maybe to learn to use Excel in a very structured way, learn how to use tables and pivot tables, example. I got that from friends in the industry rather than the academia that maybe should have taught me that.
Yeah.
Anthony, thank you.
Thank you.